Hello and welcome to The Big Fight. It's again been a period which has left India feeling somewhat insecure. The question of internal security perhaps has never been very far from our minds for decades now, but once again a series of events have taken place that has left us wondering whether we are facing fresh and renewed challenges from within and from without. We've had the Pune blast, we've had a series of Naxal attacks, and of course there have been some fresh clashes in Kashmir as we speak, which are again causing concern. So what should we do about the question of internal security? Everybody complains, everybody says the government's not doing enough, the media is not doing enough, no one's doing enough. What practically can we and should we do? So we've got a range of the best experts in the field to tell us what they think we should do on the subject of internal security. Let me just start by welcoming outside the studio, we've got Mr. Himanshu Kumar, who's a social activist who's been working in the tribal areas of Chhattisgarh. It's great to have you with us, Mr. Himanshu Kumar. Jayanti Natarajan also joining us from Chennai. Jayanti, it's great to have you with us. Starting from my left out here, Shekhar Gupta needs very little further introduction, Editor-in-Chief, of course, of the Indian Express. Mr. Ajit Doval, former Director of IB, the person who's actually been there in the field, who knows exactly what needs to be done. And you will hopefully be telling us why some of what needs to be done is not actually being done. Chandan Mitra is joining us, Senior Leader, BJP, well-known journalist, of course, and with both your hats, you can perhaps give us words of advice. Somebody else who's been out there in the field and has done it at great length, Mr. M.L. Kamawat, who's former DG, BSF. He was the person who led the Greyhound Commandos in Andhra Pradesh for some time and with some success. What was that experience like? We'll be hearing. Kanchan Gupta, Associate Editor, Pioneer, somebody whom we often see on Twitter and other such forums expressing rather vociferously what he thinks should be done. So, Kanchan, here's your chance to tell me in person how wrong I am in everything which I say, and not just on Twitter. And finally, Madhu Gaudiakshi, who's Congress MP from Nizamabad, so somebody who actually are dealing with all these problems on a day-to-day basis. All right, thank you all so much for joining us. Mr. Dole, why don't I actually kick off with you? Are the threats that we are facing now worse than they were 6 months ago, 1 year ago, 2 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago? Has the situation been getting better?
Definitely. Actually, when we talk about the intensity of the threat, we are not talking about one thing, we are talking about two things. One is the intrinsic strength of the threat, and secondly, our capability to respond to it. If our capability and capacity increases, then the threat is not that formidable. Our ground level operational capability has decreased, while the intensity and the complexities of the various internal security threats have increased. It is this gap which is a matter of concern.
So you're saying the threat has actually gone down a little bit, but so has the capacity.
No, I don't say threat has gone down. I say threat is going up at a much greater rate.
It is continuing to increase.
And our capacity building is going relatively at a smaller gap, at a smaller rate. So the gap is getting increased with every succeeding year.
Chandan, you agree with that?
Well, yes, to a large extent, yes. I would say definitely the threats are increasing. But, I would add just one rider. I think we have left things unattended for so long. And this capacity building that Mr. Doval is talking about has not really been attempted in all seriousness. And look, a country as complex as India, we must anticipate that there will be various sectional pressures, insurgencies, separatist movements, and in knowing that these things are going to happen, I think it's very, very unfortunate that we have done so little strategic planning, and therefore, when the problem erupts, there are knee-jerk reactions, and we fail to take the requisite steps to douse the fire.
Okay, Shekhar?
If you look at it clinically, I do not believe that the threat today is qualitatively bigger or more serious than it was 3 years ago. But it looks more serious because of our complacence of 5 years. This country for 5 years lived in denial. It thought these problems did not exist, that these were being exaggerated by the media. We had a disaster as a Home Minister who's now been rewarded with a governorship, which is a great shame for India.
Tuba.com